Chon Minhun inquires of his followers whether they have prepared for the battle over the years, during which the mentor meditated and receives a satisfactory response. He dispatches various battalions on missions that will help him unite all of China. His heiress becomes intrigued by this idea. However, the girl does not understand why Chon Minhun did not want to send her as well. The mentor suggests that she goes alone. Chon Minhun intends to pursue the Blood Church alone, which causes his assistant to be upset because he is worried about the high priest. Ultimately, the decision is made that Chon Soso, the heiress, will go with the head of the church on his mission. At the protagonist's home, the nanny calms his children, who miss their father very much. No Gajin and his squad have been pursuing the kidnappers for a very long time and have found numerous headquarters, but the children were nowhere to be found. Finally, they found the very cave where the high priest of the Blood Church conducted the sacrifice. No Gajin entered without hesitation and was very surprised to find that everyone inside was already dead. Unfortunately, the children were not visible. The remaining members of the Blood Church fled with the kidnapped children. Many of them were not happy with the heavy burden, but they were ordered to keep the children alive until the right moment. However, the enemy caught up with the fugitives and now they have nothing left to do but fight and die with honor. Chon Minhun himself understands that the word honor is alien to this group. The protagonist's squad was ordered to retreat due to the demon church's activity. No Gajin is very unhappy about this and is convinced that they will soon find the children. They just need a little more time. The main character pleads with the commander to allow him to continue the search for at least a few more days, but he cannot comply. The commander is not pleased with ending the search now either, but they must follow orders. However, the captain releases the man if he wants to go alone, shocking the entire squad. No Gajin walks through the forest late at night. He feels guilty in front of his children for leaving them for strangers. However, his conscience will not let him return empty-handed. He feels relatively safe because he has not had any problems in battle with anyone he has encountered before. It is unclear what has influenced this, his strength or the weakness of his opponents. This gives No Gajin confidence to move forward. The man sees a bonfire and runs towards it. Peeking out from behind a tree, he sees a man with a missing girl. Despite the protagonist's stealth, the stranger notices him. It turns out to be Chon Minhun, who tried to explain to the man that he sent the children to a safe place, but the man already saw him as an enemy. The high priest saw the boy's ability to use familiar techniques and asked where he learned them, but received a rude response. Then Chon Minhun understood that he could not avoid the battle. No Gajin hesitated, as his opponent looked strong, which worried him a little, but he realized that he had coped with similar martial arts masters before and could do it again. The opponent had not done anything yet, but No Gajin was petrified with fear and could not move. It took a lot of effort to overcome his fear and go on the attack. However, the strike was instantly repelled. The man had no intention of surrendering and continued to attack again and again until, at one point, when the protagonist tried to use a special striking technique, the priest caught his hand and squeezed it, causing intense pain. At this moment, No Gajin employs the technique of 1,000,000,000 strikes, which his opponent knows well as it was mastered by Chon Minhun's missing friend, Ma Yui. Then the priest decided that the boy might know the whereabouts of his teacher, but to his questions, he did not respond, but continued his attacks. Until then, his techniques had worked quite well and so No Gajin was confident and did not even think that he might lose. However, the opponent turned out to be stronger than one might think and therefore the main hero received much more damage than he inflicted in return. This led him to the thought that perhaps this old man really knew his teacher well. In addition, Chon Minhun's strikes were felt much more painfully than the others, despite the preparedness of his body. The priest is annoyed by the stubbornness of the boy and thinks that he was too gentle with the opponent. Therefore, the old man uses the seal of the heavenly demon, which knocks the main hero off balance. Now Chon Minhun can simply beat the opponent, who can do nothing about it. The priest notices that the boy lacks completeness of techniques and understands that perhaps his friend's disciple could not complete his training. Perhaps Chon Minhun is even guilty of this and intends to take responsibility. Meanwhile, No Gajin curses all martial arts masters and continues to attack, only receiving more injuries. No Gajin had already forgotten how powerful martial arts masters could be. He carelessly thought he could easily win. This fight was a mistake. Now he could die here and leave no one behind for his children. With his last strength, the main hero stands up and shows that he is ready to continue. Suddenly, the little girl who slept by the fire throughout the whole battle wakes up and asks the priest to stop because she remembers No Gajin and his kindness. The child stops the fight between the two good people for her. Finally, the main hero begins to understand that Chon Minhun is not one of the kidnappers, but on the contrary, he is the savior of the children. In the forest, a little girl protects the main hero from Chon Minhun, shielding him with her body. Meanwhile, the young man lies on the ground, unable to stand up. The elderly master acknowledges that he was wrong to attack the boy in order to calm the child. Chon Minhun is surprised that No Gajin doesn't know his own martial arts school. The young man remembers the teacher's surname, and then the priest realizes that he is indeed the student of his friend Ma Yui. However, the main hero doesn't know the teacher's whereabouts and becomes very angry that the old man just left without saying anything. The priest introduces himself as a friend of his teacher to the main hero. Chon Minhun remembers how he once drank with Ma Yui. The priest suggested that his friend start his own church and find a bunch of followers, but he couldn't violate his teacher's will. This situation made everything more complicated, as Ma Yui wanted to pass on his knowledge to only one person. He also didn't want his student to live the same life as his teacher. Now the main hero believed his opponent, as he was in as good a shape as his teacher. They needed to talk. When the little girl calmly fell asleep in the main hero's arms, the men had time to talk. Chon Minhun was surprised at how skillfully the man handled children, and then learns that he has 3 of his own. It only further confuses the master, as his friend was always against his student living in Muram. In response to the main hero's question about how strong he is according to Muram's standards, the master responds that many there are much stronger than him. And then he reminds the main hero that his teacher didn't want to send his student to Muram and asks why he disobeyed. A procession of the Enlightenment Church led by Chon Soso is on its way to meet someone important on the order of the High Priest, as they were ordered to drop everything and leave immediately. Nobody knows the purpose of this assignment, including the priest's heiress. The main hero and his teacher's friend are walking along the road, and No Gajin is worried about the children, but the old man assures him that they have all been sent to the castle and are safe. However, No Gajin is not only troubled by this. He realizes that the old man is leading him in a strange direction, and the man needs to get to his children as quickly as possible. Chon Minhun convinces him that they just need to meet someone and then he can return. At that moment, the priest's heiress arrives with her troops from the church. Chon Minhun lies to the main hero that these people are his mercenaries and that they are problem solvers, just like he used to be. The surrounding people are confused by what is happening, but nobody dares to argue with Chon Minhun. The man introduces No Gajin to his granddaughter and says that the girl is still weak, like all of his warriors, but they all need to get to Muram. No Gajin finds the girl very beautiful and even resembling his wife. However, the heiress is very contemptuous towards the stranger. This arouses suspicion in No Gajin regarding the words of his teacher's friend. Chon Minhun suggests that he fight one of his men or even his granddaughter to prove himself. The main hero refuses to fight the girl because of his moral principles. This offends the heiress and she herself starts a fight with the young man. They are both confident in their victory and underestimate their opponent. Before the start of the duel, Chon Minhun mentally asks his granddaughter to fully unleash the power of her opponent, and she nods with a slight smile. In the fight, the main hero lets the lady strike first. He studies her movements and realizes that she is not only self-confident, but also very strong. This worries the man, but such skills were to be expected from a Muram master. The heiress herself was also amazed by the skills of the main hero and did not understand where such amazing abilities came from in a simpleton. Although her grandfather warned her about whose disciple was before her, but the girl still did not expect such stunning skills. Somehow, they managed to keep up with each other. The girl showed her best strikes, but the young man blocked them with astonishing ease. This surprised not only his opponent, but also everyone around. While the sparring was going on, Chon Minhun mentally communicated with his granddaughter and reminded her that despite the appearance of this young man, he should not be taken lightly. Otherwise, there would be a great risk of losing. Meanwhile, No Gajin uses his best technique and performs a throw that catches the girl off guard. She did not expect to be easily defeated. However, the main hero was premature in his celebration of victory, as the girl managed to hold herself up with just one pinky finger, and the fight was not yet over. The church heiress throws her opponent away from herself and intends to get even with him for almost defeating her. She rushes into attack, intending to use her abilities to the fullest, and the main hero prepares to block her strikes. Initially, he even succeeds, but then his defense is broken through and heavy blows are delivered all over his body. Birds scurry across the body of the main character lying in the forest. Even a centipede has crawled onto his face. When the man regains consciousness, everyone has to move away from him as he opens his eyes. He does not remember how he ended up here, and the only thing next to him is the writing on the ground: "Do not go to Muram." Suddenly, his friends from the Union of the Heavenly Dragon approach him from the thicket of the forest. When the boss sees his subordinate, he even hugs him with joy, as he was very worried that something might have happened to him. However, the main character did not understand how they found him, as he himself did not know where he was. He was surprised to learn that the Union had received news from No Gaijin himself about his location, and the location of the children he saved. He only remembered not being able to defeat the girl who was weak according to the master's words but was from Muram. Everyone returned to the castle. Chon Minhun watched all of this from the sidelines. He was unsure if he had done the right thing, but he only followed the will of his friend. The main character returns home, and his children immediately run to embrace him. They missed him terribly and begin to cry. A meeting of representatives of different clans from Muram is held. They discuss what to do next in connection with the activity of the Demon Church. The first thing that was decided was to sign a 5-year peace agreement to prevent any discord from arising among the newly emerged enemy. It became clear that everyone had their reasons for signing this agreement, but no one protested. The main character comes to train at the rock. He remembers how he could not defeat the girl and is angry with himself. He hits the rock with his shoulder again, and from the first strike, he feels terrible pain. The man does not understand how this is possible and realizes with horror that his muscles have weakened. Perhaps this is the result of his fight with the master from Muram. No Gaijin stands guard, and he feels terribly cold. He does not know what is happening to his body lately, as it burns all over, and this is not like a cold. Chon Minhun and his granddaughter walk along a path with their people. The high priest asks everyone except the girl to return back as they need to talk alone. Chon Soso suspects something is wrong, seeing how much her grandfather has aged and how much stronger he has become. Chon Minhun regrets the cessation of their conquest, which they started, but his granddaughter doesn't mind it at all. He gives her important instructions that will help her in life after inheriting the church. It turns out that the old man's time has come to leave. It is time for him to ascend to heaven, which could have happened much earlier, but he had to wait many years for this moment. There is very little time left, and Chon Soso will have to go back alone. No Gaijin is planning to train his body. He has a day off, and the pain has completely passed. But now he feels an itch all over his body if he doesn't exercise. He had just started when his daughter came up to him and hugged his leg. No matter how much he tried to send the child to sleep or play, she still wouldn't let go of her father. In the end, the child took No Gaijin by the hand and dragged him to the market. She went straight to the jewelry stall. People were running past, looking for the girl, apparently connected with martial arts masters. The daughter asked her father for an expensive necklace, and she refused any cheaper alternatives. Just as he was about to ask about the cost of the jewelry, a strange man with a hidden face approached and also became interested in the item. He really liked the necklace and was not going to give it up to the child. But when the people looking for the girl noticed him, he left the purchase and ran away. The main character never understood who this person was. Later, the father and daughter returned from the market with food and the purchased necklace for the girl. The man had to refrain from drinking due to the expensive purchase of the jewelry, but this was expected since he had a daughter. It's a good thing he only has one daughter, otherwise he would have gone bankrupt. When they arrived home, the boys greeted them, and the father gave them delicious food that he had brought. In the evening, the children were already asleep, and even the father dozed off sitting next to them. Suddenly, he began to shake terribly, ran out of the house, and ran to the very cliff. His body started burning unbearably again. The 4 statues of golden gods stood Chon Minhun with his granddaughter, praying and realizing that his time had come and he must depart. His final instruction to his granddaughter was to destroy the Church of Blood. The girl bowed to her grandfather and wished him a good journey, but when she looked up, no one was there. Upon returning to her own church, the heiress immediately got to work. She ordered her assistant to temporarily take command. Their main goal now was to destroy the Church of Blood, but uniting all of Muram was not necessary. The assistant obeyed, and the church's servants appointed a new high priestess. The protagonist drank with his friends and told them how he had almost submitted a resignation letter to his boss. It's not surprising that about half of the Union's mercenaries are dissatisfied with their working conditions, but his friends advised him not to rush and to stay for at least some income. The company had a noisy evening, and the elderly man treated them all to drinks. The protagonist got drunk that night and brought a large bag of shashlik home for the kids. At the gate, he pondered that he works for the children and should stay in his position. Only his daughter greeted him at home, as his sons had long since fallen asleep. The little girl happily ate all the meat with her father. In the morning, the triplets saw him off to work and wished him a good day. The man rejoiced in how he had such good children and once again realized that he was working for a reason. Winter came, and the children rejoiced in the snow. They wanted to build a huge snowman, and their father offered to help. In the end, the family played in the cold until late at night, and the snowman turned out to be really big. The children fell ill a few days later, and the nanny scolded the father for being in the cold with them for so long. After all, the woman had only left for a couple of days, and then this happened. No Gajan worried about them and would have liked to take their suffering upon himself, but instead, he fell ill with his children. He had never been sick before, and what had happened now meant that his body had become significantly weakened. The chief is planning to send the protagonist on a mission to investigate the case of the Blood Church. However, the man refuses to do so, as his body is still not fully recovered from his previous injury. In reality, he just does not want to deal with it, as the affairs of Muram do not particularly interest him, and the children, whom he had been searching for, are now safe. The boss does not understand where the man's former passion for this case has gone, but agrees to cover him this time. However, he must take on the next assignment, or he will be fired. No Gajan is content with this response for now. He exits the captain's room and rejoices in the fact that he will come home earlier, as his children require more attention from him as they grow older. Nonetheless, he will have to take on assignments occasionally. His body has fully recovered now, and it seems even stronger. It is time to test it with diligent training. Upon returning home, No Gajan notices bruises on his son's faces. He is shocked and does not understand what could have happened. The nanny tells him that the children got into a fight with the neighbor's boys. One of the boys was being bullied, and the other stood up for his brother, protecting him. The father is surprised that his children did not try to struggle, but it turns out that they were afraid to bring any troubles to their father, as one of the bullies was the son of an important person in the union. Now the protagonist faces a dilemma. He does not want his children to learn to fight, but they certainly need to know how to defend themselves. In the end, he decides that it will not hurt them to learn the basics. His daughter also wants to learn the same things as her brothers, but the father has always been against it. Nevertheless, the little girl tries harder than anyone else, and the protagonist has no chance of stopping her. At first, the children found it challenging to perform simple exercises and would start complaining almost immediately. But they always refused to stop. Time flew by quickly, and now the triplets have grown up and almost resemble teenagers. They are doing the same first exercise, watching their father train, and they are eager to try new techniques. The sister is trying the hardest, and the father is amazed at how fast his children are growing up. As the years went by, the main protagonist still stood at the gates. He enjoyed this place of work, although he sometimes had to do some stretching exercises. After 5 years, his body had finally fully recovered. During all this time, he suffered from pain and trained very diligently, but now his strength had even become greater than before. With the janitor, who happened to be sweeping the path at the entrance, No Gajan struck up a conversation about his children. He very much wanted at least his daughter to study science. He was determined not to let the girl practice martial arts. Even though she had much more talent than her brothers, he did not want his children to have a life like his own. Of course, the janitor agreed with him, as did the main protagonist's partner. But the janitor was also confident that the girl should be given a chance to follow her own path, and not be forced to do what her father wanted. The most important thing was for the man to be able to teach his children at least writing and the alphabet. He would have to learn himself for that. The daughter really wasn't going to just agree to study separately from her brothers. The girl was determined. She enjoyed practicing martial arts and also assured her father that a girl could wield a sword and study science at the same time. At the moment, she had already succeeded in both, and she promised her father to study science independently outside of school. The father didn't know what to say to her, but he also didn't want to force his daughter by coercion. The boss called No Gajan and asked him to wait until he finished his work. It turns out his boss worked so hard and yet remained kind to such a troublesome subordinate as the main protagonist. Eventually, he finished his paperwork and approached the man with a task. This time he promised a simple assignment, to accompany a child. The only problem was that the place they needed to go was far away, and the journey there and back would take 6 months. He couldn't leave his children for such a long time. The boss started to get angry. He was angry with the main protagonist and threatened to fire him. He had tolerated No Gajan's behavior for a long time. This assignment could only be given to him. No Gajan refused and even agreed to be fired, though he said it impulsively. Meanwhile, the boss tried to keep himself under control as much as possible and made him an offer that the management had told him to make, if he agreed to the task. Then his children would be admitted to the best martial arts school in the Union. No parent would refuse such an offer. This is the end of the second part. If you want me to continue this manhwa, please support the channel by liking and commenting. and also subscribe so as not to miss new videos.